Hello and welcome to an important event, right? Stream. We have something very special that we want to show, that we want to announce. Actually, not announce because we announced it yesterday, but you might not have caught it up. Anyways, important things happening, important announcements, actually cool announcements. And I'm going to start by introducing two hosts that are going to join me. And we have also three guests, but I'm going to keep them as a mystery guests that are going to join us a bit later. So more people are coming, but let's start with Dan and another gentleman over there, Matthias. They're going to host it today with me. And you want to introduce yourself, maybe? Dan, Matthias? Dan first, go.
Sure. I'll introduce myself. Hey, my name is Dan. I'm a Crossplane maintainer, and I work over at Upbound these days. Super excited to be here and join some community folks and learning about some things that they've been building over the past couple of years, really, and also show their work off in the marketplace, which Victor mentioned was launched yesterday. We're definitely super excited about it. So glad to be here, and thanks for being the MC, Victor. No one does it quite like you.
I'm not sure about that, but I'll take it. Anyways, Matthias, next. Who are you, Matthias?
Yeah, hey everyone, Matthias, also from Upbound, product manager over here, and also super excited to be here and talk a little bit of what we're cooking and getting people involved and talking to those that are already involved. So yeah, let's kick it off.
Okay, so I'm going to let you, Matthias, reveal the secret for those of you who didn't hear the announcement yesterday. What is it all about? Matthias, tell us.
Sure. No, it's super exciting. And the team has been working hard on this. So we have announced the marketplace yesterday, the Upbound Marketplace yesterday. And the core idea of the marketplace is that there's these core building blocks in Upbound or Crossplane, providers and configurations, and we heard the feedback from customers that they're hard to find. Right, it's hard to find them, to see them, to explore them. So we build a marketplace where it's really easy to find different providers, different configurations. And it's like all things, discovering, sharing, collaborating, building new ones like the folks that we're talking about in a minute too. It's a one-stop shop for all things providers and configurations. And the nice thing about it, it's not only like a registry or something, but it also provides nice dynamic context indexing. So it's like Crossplane native. All things are getting discovered there, like the managed resources, composite resource definitions, all the API definitions are rendered in a really nice place to consume, including other documentation examples and whatnot. So pretty excited for the marketplace to be there to find and discover and explore listings. I think you're on mute.
Oh. This doesn't sound right, because I started this saying, hey, we have something big to announce, and you're underplaying it now, downplaying it. So why is it such a big deal? Why does it matter that we are launching a marketplace?
Yeah, I think the important part to really remember is, maybe for folks who are a little bit new to Crossplane is, if you are building, these control planes powered by Crossplane, which basically gives you the capability, super powerful capability of building your cloud, your internal cloud platforms, or your developer platforms. It gives you the capability of doing that in Kubernetes. But there is a couple of building blocks that you need, and two of them, right, are providers and configurations. And providers, they basically let you connect to the cloud, so they give you the CRDs, like from AWS, GCP, and Azure, and others. Give you these CRDs into your Crossplane cluster. But you need these providers. You need to find them, and you need to find the right ones with the right maturity, with the right quality, etc. So that is part one. And it's really, really important that these are there, right? And people are collaborating and sharing and creating new ones, right? So it's an essential building block. And the other essential building block is kind of configurations, which are these composite resource definitions that bundle together to your custom API, and also there, right? It's like how are other people are doing it, right? How has someone else defined their platform, right? So it's I think it's really important that we're still in early days of Crossplane and building platforms. So it's really important that we share and collaborate on these. And I think the marketplace is one way of doing it, and we hope that people are learning with it, right? How are you doing it? Like, which provider are you using? How do you assemble this to your configuration? What problems, what learnings do you have? Like, maybe there is an adaptation of someone saying, I like it, but maybe this is like a slightly variant of doing it, and maybe I'm using this kind of other resource of that provider to do something else. So we're excited about it because it hopes to leverage and force the community to collaborate on building platforms, building cross-plane powered platforms, and the building blocks are there, right? And they're to discover and they're to share there, and that's why we think it's a big deal.
Okay, so if I understood right, you can explore as a user marketplace, find out what fits your needs, maybe build on top of that, things like that, right? And you can publish your own, right? Or is it kind of only Matthias is allowed to publish? How does that work?
Yeah, we thought about that in the beginning, but we kind of said, okay, let's get the community also involved. No, everyone is happy to free for anyone and everyone to join, right? This is a free and open marketplace, and you can create your providers and configurations from day one. There's a small nitbit that we're asking you to contact us for making it public, but that's only for any copyright decision, copyright testing. And it's only a temporary measure, right? So midterm, we really we want to make this as automated and seamless as possible, but we're not gating this in any way, right? So anyone is able to publish any kind of provider, any kind of configuration. We're not gating anything.
So we're going to see marketplace in action in a couple of minutes.
Right.
That's why Dan is waiting impatiently. But until then, outside of what Dan is going to show us and how it works and what's not, what's coming next? What are the plans? Kind of what are we going to do with the marketplace? When I say we, I mean community, Upbound, and so on and so forth. What's there in next year?
Yeah.
Where do we want to be?
Yeah, as Grant said, it's on the roadmap, right? We have tons of ideas that we're cooking, but I think it's really important or I'd love to get the community involved. Is like, okay, as you're using the marketplace, what kind of features, what kind of capabilities do you like? Where would it be useful? What things are you missing, right? We have also a couple of other tunings like the UpCLI, etc. So it's like, what is missing, right? I really would love to understand from the community. We have a backlog of things and we keep building things, but we would love to get the community involved, and more so about building new providers, building new configurations. So if you're out there and think about a configuration, about like a nice platform, go ahead, start building, hit our docs, and obviously hit us on Slack, etc. So I'm listening. We want to hear on what your thoughts are. I think you're again on mute.
It happens. Technical difficulties. It's not me. Anyways, I get nervous when people talk to me for a long time without showing me the money, showing me the things. So I'm going to be very rude and I'm going to say, Matthias, you're out. Then show us the money. Show us how it works.
Awesome. Thanks, Victor, and thanks, Matthias, for that overview. I love that description of listening to the community. It is early days with the marketplace, right? We just launched. There are so many cool things we could do with the marketplace, so many aspects of how Crossplane packages are constructed that allow us to do unique things. And there's also some interesting technology behind the scenes in the marketplace that powers this experience we're going to show off. So we're really excited about leveraging that to give the community more features. I did drop in the YouTube chat there. If you have feature ideas today, we're working on a good way to collect those and synthesize all of them and reflect them in a kind of public facing way. But in the meantime, if you're in Crossplane Slack, feel free to hit us up on the Upbound channel, or reach out via email or anything like that. Also, as you know, lots of us on this stream are always on Twitter, so feel free to ping us there as well. Okay, so go ahead, Victor. Although you're still on mute.
Anyways, I'm going to interrupt you for a second.
Do it.
Something that I should have said at the very beginning, but I forgot. This is a live stream. People are watching. Send us your questions, doubts, comments, anything you have, anything. And I cannot promise that we'll answer, right? We might not have an answer, but you can ask. So go ahead, ask your questions, comments. If we can make this interactive, that would be absolutely awesome. And now going back to you, Dan. Go.
Awesome. Thanks, Victor. I'm going to get you a automated muting solution here so we can help you out over there. But yeah, absolutely. I think Victor can also put the comments up on the screen. So feel free to do that. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen here. I will give you a disclaimer. As I tweeted this morning, I'm on a traveling setup here. So you'll have to bear with me with some of the screen sharing and that sort of thing. But we'll go ahead and get it started here and see how it goes. All right. So I'm going to share, and you should see probably the StreamYard thing here for just a moment. And then I'll get that off the screen. All right. So you're getting the nice effect there. Victor, keep me honest. Can you see my terminal here?
Oh, yeah, it's there.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, let's go ahead and just open up the marketplace and get started with this. All right. So as we posted in the YouTube channel, the URL is marketplace.upbound.io. When you land on the marketplace, you're going to be prompted, with discovering the packages, just as Matthias was saying. We also have kind of a nice carousel here to feature some of the providers and configurations. And one of the things that we're actually looking at from a roadmap perspective is thinking about how to kind of like bubble up kind of trending providers and configurations and things like that, just like you'd see, with GitHub repositories. So if you have any ideas around that in the community, feel free to let us know. But if you want to go in and search, you can search for anything you like. Here I search for AWS. You see we have 2 AWS providers here. If we switch over to configurations, looks like we have a number of different things that mention AWS. So we can go through some of those in a bit. But you can search across anything. And the way the search works is it takes your crossplane.yaml, which we're going to take a look at in a moment, and basically just looks for keywords in there and searches across them. As you're seeing here, this is all public. I want to talk about a couple of the filters here on the side, though, for when you're searching. So first of all, we have kind of the obvious one, providers and configurations. So you can say either show me all the providers that match this query or all the configurations. Another thing we have here is tier. And we have a little note here, and we're looking at expanding some of this information. But right now, another thing that was launched is the Upbound official program. If you want to check out the blog post, and if anyone in the YouTube channel wants to drop the link to the blog post, there's a great description of kind of what the official program is. But any of those that have been denoted as official are going to have that Upbound official and check mark there. And you can filter for just those or none of those or everything. And the last one here is public and private. Right now, this isn't actually doing much for us. If we hit private, we're not going to see anything for providers or configurations because I'm not signed in. So if we go over to public, right, we'd see everything. It's the same as show all when not signed in. But signing in is going to give you a number of benefits, including being able to add your own things to the marketplace, which is what we're going to look at doing today. We also, speaking to that kind of gamification aspect of the marketplace and allowing folks to favorite things and bookmark different providers and configurations, that's also something we can do with folks that are signed in. So we definitely encourage folks to go ahead and create an account. And based on community feedback, we're going to be rolling out a bunch of those features over the next couple of weeks. Before we go to pushing our package, I want to show a little bit what it looks like when you actually go into a package details page, is what we call this. So there's a good bit of content here. The first thing you're going to notice is you're going to be taken to the latest version by default here. So we're on v0.18. You can see there's a number of versions available for this provider AWS. We're going to get an overview of what's here. We're going to get a link to where we can send emails for support. We're going to be able to look at the source code. So if we wanted to open that up, we jump over here to the repository that this is from. And then in this case, we also have some legal notices and package type. If you wanted to go ahead and install this, this provider here, you could jump in and grab the manifest. So applying this in a Crossplane cluster or in a UXP, which is Upbound's downstream distribution of Crossplane, which is fully API compatible, you could just take this, copy it into a file, and apply it to the cluster. And this package exactly would get installed. You can also use the CLI. I know a lot of folks are familiar with kube control crossplane install. We also have up control plane provider and configuration install as well. If we scroll down a bit here, since this is a provider, we just have our documentation and CRDs. So documentation is versioned by the provider version. And so if we look back some of the other ones, we'll see that, for instance, we don't have any docs on this one. So you can have version-specific documentation. Here on this one, we just have a quick start you can go through and a configuration. This is another area where we're definitely looking for feedback, where we'd love to see folks, recommending things they'd like to see here. We've also done a little work on making these a little more interactive. So feel free to drop feedback related to that. So the main thing that you're looking at when you go to a provider is taking a look at the CRDs. We can filter here by group or kind or version. So let's say we wanted to just look at all of the S3 resources. We could get those. If we wanted to say, I specifically want a bucket, for instance, then we can filter on bucket, which those all happen to be S3 as well. But you can filter them however you like. I'm going to go and let's take a look at a fairly complex one here. And we'll do an EKS cluster. So if we go to the EKS cluster, this is a drastically improved version of what doc.crds.dev has been for the community as a automated documentation tool. So everything I'm showing you right now is something you get automatically by pushing a package. This doesn't require any extra effort on folks in the community who are building providers and configurations. What you're able to do here is a number of unique things. So you can go in and you could copy a field name if you wanted to. So let's see, we have for provider there. You can also go and copy a link to that specific field. So for instance, let's say I wanted to, I was working on deploying an EKS cluster with Victor, let's say. If I wanted to go in and say, hey, Victor, you need to set the role ARN selector policy resolve behavior. I don't actually know what that field means. I could read here about what it means. That's just pulled off the CRD. But I could go ahead and send over that link to Victor. And when he went into the marketplace, it would scroll him right down to that resolve field. And he could say, oh, okay, this is what I'm looking for. Another thing that folks get for free when using the marketplace, and this is actually an up X package extension. So folks are familiar with the X package specification. That's how we format Crossplane packages as OCI images. With the Upbound extension, which is just another layer in that package, you can also put examples. So if someone wants to come in and get started, usually what I'll do is come in and I'll say, I'm just going to copy this. And then I'll go and create a file with this in it and edit it to be what I'd like here. So all of your examples actually automatically are going to be included when you push, which is really awesome. I'll briefly, actually, let's skip over going to configuration packages, because that's actually what we're going to build and push here in a moment. But I did want to go to these publish docs here. These are going to be really useful for anyone who's looking to get started publishing a package to the marketplace. These are fresh new docs, a new doc site for us, docs.upbound.io. We're going to be building this out over time, but it's already got some really great content in it. You may have seen Pete, who worked on these docs, also updating the Crossplane docs recently to make them a lot more robust as well. So really excited to see this showing up here. But as we're going to see, we're going to need to create an Upbound account, somewhat obviously, to be able to push a package to the marketplace. So we'll do that. And we're also going to need the up CLI. So we're just going to go through this documentation here pretty quickly. I already have some manifests set up, and we're going to push that to the marketplace. So this first thing that we need to do is create our Upbound account. So I'm going to jump over to the registration page. You may have seen our registration page recently moved to accounts.upbound.io. This is kind of the central hub for managing your account across all of Upbound's product offerings, which are kind of enumerated here today. So I'm going to do the sign up with email flow. You can obviously sign up with GitHub or Google as well. And I definitely want that email communication. But let's go ahead and create a demo account here. And I'm going to say our name is a marketplace user. And we'll say Dan marketplace user at upbound.io. And then I'm going to use a super secret password so that no one is able to get into my account here. Next, I'm going to need to choose a username. This username is going to be the one that shows up on as my personal account packages, right? So this should be kind of like your GitHub handle where you'd have personal repos. You can also have organizations that have a different name, but we're going to use this as, let's just call it market user. Let's see if that's available. All right, no one else is going to be able to be market user but me. And I've got my pen over here. Let's see if anyone can race me to sign up. All right, it looks like I'm all good to go. And it says jump over to the Upbound Marketplace to explore. Sounds good. So back to the marketplace we go. We're going to see that now market user is configured here. If we wanted to go over and jump into account settings, we could see that as well. Manage any of those, add login providers like GitHub or Google, that sort of thing. But I'm not going to do any of that right now. I'll leave that for y'all to explore. But since we're in here, we actually have the ability to see private packages, and we haven't pushed any yet. So let's start off with doing that. So I'm going to jump back over to our documentation here. And it looks like we need the up CLI. So let's pop that open and see what it tells us to do. All right, I'm going to go ahead and grab that. I believe I already have it, but let's get it again. This will give you the latest version of the up CLI tool. And it looks like we need to move that into somewhere in our path. This is the suggested location, so we'll do it there. All right. And we've got v0.14. I happen to know that's the latest version. You always get the latest if you use that link. Back over to our pushing packages. It's already jumping into up X package build here. I'm going to show you all a little bit about what I have in terms of manifests. So you're likely familiar with this concept of a definition and a composition. And the crossplane.yaml is kind of what ties everything together into a package. So let's look at that crossplane.yaml first. There's a bit of information here that's important. First of all, we have our crossplane version constraints here, which are at v1.7.0-0. This means any crossplane version greater than v1.7 is going to be fine for us here. We also have a dependency here where we're saying we depend on that Upbound provider AWS, and we need features that are included in version 0.15 or greater. So this is configuring automatic resolution of dependencies in Crossplane. The other things you'll notice here are the meta annotations here, which are going to drive that UI that we saw in the marketplace on the package details page. So I'm going to have a source, maintainer, license, and then this description is what will show on the package card in the search results. And the README is going to be that longer thing we see on the package details page. So this is how you can drive the UI. These annotations are not specific to Upbound at all. These are defined in the up X package specification, or excuse me, the Crossplane X package specification. So I'm going to jump over to that. And if you're curious about what annotations are available here, you'll see them all in this object annotations section. And we're using all of them in this case. I'm going to use a common example of defining a Postgres type here. So a Postgres instance that has some simple fields here. But we can see down here that we just have a few properties that we can provide for a password secret reference and a cluster reference and those sorts of things. So this is our abstraction provided by composition here. And then we have a mapping to our composition that actually takes that and maps that to a few resources under the hood, such as an RDS instance and a subnet group up here. All right, so we're going to run that up xpackage build command. All right, and we have that saved in our xpackage file here. When we push, if there's only one xpackage file, that's going to be used by default. And so I'm going to start off first by logging in, right? We need to log in to be able to push this. So I'm going to say market user, and let's see if I remember the password here. Looks like I do. And let's check if we have any repos in our account. Looks like we don't have any. That makes sense, right? We just created it. But we can use this up repo command group to be able to create and push. So I'm going to do an up repo create, and I believe we called this market demo. All right, so that's created. If we now look at our repositories, you're going to see that we have market demo. Its type is unknown. This is going to be inferred the first time we push. So we require that when you push a provider configuration, that within a given repository, it stays that same type to avoid confusion when folks are trying to install it. You'll see this is also denoted as false under public, and we'll talk a bit more about that. Matthias already mentioned kind of that step we have to verify there's no explicit content or anything like that in a package. We haven't pushed yet, so it hasn't been updated in a bit. But I'm just going to run up xpackage push. We're going to push that to market user, market demo, and we'll call this the first release version. So v0.0.1. Important note here, because Crossplane standardizes on semantic versioning for dependency resolution, we only treat semantic version release version. So that's without any trailing extra content on the end of this major minor patch version here as ones that will be published. You can push as many versions as you like. It's just like tags in a normal OCI registry. But today, we only publish to the marketplace, i.e. show that content, make them searchable, the release versions. So if you have a project, all of your build versions will get pushed. You'll be able to pull them, install them, etc. But only the release versions will show up in the marketplace. That's just to give folks a bit of a better time when they're exploring the documentation. Last thing I'll say on that is in the future, we may opt to allow you to selectively publish different versions. But right now, this is a pretty clean experience for folks. So I'm going to go ahead and push that. And because I'm logged in with the up CLI, I don't have to configure any sort of Docker credentials or anything like that. My up credentials will just be used automatically. And I can just look at up repo list. You'll see that it inferred that it was a configuration. It's still not public, but it gives us a time at which it was updated. And that's kind of handy just to see the last time a successful push was made. So I'm going to get back into the marketplace here. We just pushed a configuration. And if I refresh this, I believe we should be signed in here. Yep, it looks like we have market user. If I go over to configurations, we see market demo is popping up first. We're showing all. If we just wanted to filter that to private, right? Only I can see this. If y'all want to go to the marketplace right now, you're not going to be able to see it. We're going to see that description that I put there in the metadata. And then if I go in, we're going to see the full overview, some of that information. This isn't a real repo, so that's not going to work. But now we're seeing the configuration view where we have XRDs and compositions, similar documentation. Obviously, I haven't filled out the fields too much here, so it's not quite as extensive. But we can also go to the compositions. It's going to tell you, hey, I satisfy this XRD. And if we go over here, it's going to tell us the resource types that exist in it. And if you wanted to copy this composition, it gives you the full description of it. So you could just copy that to your clipboard as well. All right. So I think that is most of what we wanted to cover for pushing and adding things to the marketplace. Just want to reiterate, if you have something public that you'd like to be public in the marketplace, we can certainly work with you to add that. And just give us an email. There's some information in the pushing packages documentation here about how to get that into a public repository. We really want to build this out as a robust place for packages in the Crossplane ecosystem. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing for a minute and jump back over here. And did it go okay? I couldn't see the screen, so.
Yeah. What's next? I think that it's about time to introduce mystery guests, right?
I think that's right. And we have 3 of them today. I might have spoiled it on Twitter a little bit earlier. But for some folks, I think it's still going to be a surprise. And I think we have Marques is up first.
Okay. Let's bring in Marques. There we are. Here's Marques. I'm going to drop off and let the 2 of you play.
Awesome.
Thanks Victor.
Cool. Marques, you want to start off? You're probably already familiar with lots of folks in the Crossplane ecosystem, but do you want to give yourself kind of a brief introduction here?
Yeah, hi, Marques Johansson. Every time you were saying Markets, my ears were perking. I was a Crossplane maintainer a few years ago, working on stacks, which was like the precursor to compositions and providers and things. But since then, I've been at Equinix, and at Equinix, I work in the DevRel team and the DevRel engineering team. We work on all kinds of integrations that help DevOps practitioners, SRE folks get their jobs done. And, Crossplane is like a natural fit. But, it's early days for our providers. So really looking to get, people to start banging on it and telling us how it can be improved.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's first of all great to have you back on a Crossplane stream here. Built a lot of the foundations of Crossplane, so it's awesome to have you still involved in the community. And one of the things that's kind of interesting to me is Equinix is a little different from other kind of like cloud providers, right? Your service offering is a little bit more focused or more unique. Do you want to talk a little bit about why people usually come to Equinix for the services that they offer?
Yeah. So Equinix is the largest, we'll say, data center provider in the world right now. And that means that there's a lot of on-prem facility hosting that's done. That on-prem meaning you might have some stuff in your basement at your office, but you're also doing things in co-location. That co-location stuff is happening in a real data center with real internet connectivity and connected next to all the other internet companies that you'd be peering with. So Equinix as that company has the most peering opportunities. And when you're on-prem next to all the, I'm trying not to name drop too many things, but next to all of the cloud companies that you're doing business with, you're going to be able to take advantage of the services that Equinix has, the Fabric service, which is like having a leased line, but like a digital version of that, to all of those providers, Network Edge to have like virtual routers. And then the part that I'm most closely affiliated with is Equinix Metal, which once upon a time you may recognize as Packet, which is bare metal hosting. So rather than spinning up VMs, you're spinning up actual bare metal servers that are physically taking up an entire rack unit in a shelf, unlike VMs where you can cram hundreds of them into a server. And so you have all that power. And with the interface that Equinix Metal provides, you have a cloud-like experience to all of that. You just say, I want to create a new server. Here's my user data. 4 minutes later, your server's up. It differs from OS to OS and location to location, but that's the experiences I have seen it. And I can do that with Crossplane. So, yeah.
Awesome. That's a great description. I love the idea of Equinix being like this bridge between other unnamed cloud providers, right? Because I feel like that's actually a key place where something like Crossplane and the composition model is really useful, where we're saying like, hey, I have this concept of what I want to create. but actually the underlying details, right, may involve services from multiple cloud providers, right? Maybe I have machines in 2 different cloud providers that are connected via that Equinix fabric, and being able to abstract those and potentially even switch out the implementations behind the scenes. Definitely, I think is a really useful use case for Crossplane. I did link to the Equinix provider in the chat, and I know a lot of folks are saying hello. A lot of folks have worked with you in the past. We're gonna keep the interviews pretty short here, but I did want to kind of round out here by saying, what do you think is kind of like next for the Equinix provider? Is it open to folks to come and contribute? Is it open source? And is there anything y'all would like help with from the community?
Yeah, definitely. There's 32 CRDs in there right now that represent a pretty good swath of the API landscape. There's plenty more that we could be implementing. The way that we like to take this is based on user feedback. So if there are API resources that we haven't covered in the provider, that's what we want to address first. But also for all the resources that we have, as I mentioned before, we just need more like banging on, kicking the tires. Is that what you do with tires these days? And just real world experience with it. So one of the configurations that I was recently working on is a K3S configuration, which would, and this is also one of those things like how would you want to use these compositions? How would you want to join these resources together? But in this composition, the idea would be provide as an example, provide a K3S token and provision a control plane and a data plane and have it all just provision in time with that eventual consistency that you get from Crossplane, which we all know and love. And with compositions, with configurations, there's a lot of ways to wire these things up. And it's an area that I'd like to see as like my first contribution in the configuration space. And then from there, how can I make that more elaborate? How can I solve more real world problems by tying in the other resource types that we know people would like to take advantage of? But yeah, need that feedback.
Awesome. And is the GitHub repo, I know there's one linked in that source field. Is that the best place to leave some of that feedback for y'all?
Yeah, definitely. Open up issues and the K3S configuration I was talking about. I have an open PR for it. It's in draft and it needs a lot of help. So if you're interested.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining. And thanks again, Marques, for everything you've done for the Crossplane community. Like I said, obviously a massive impact, both in core Crossplane and on the Equinix provider in a lot of different areas. So we're honored you took a few minutes to hang out with us today.
Yeah, thanks. I enjoy seeing the new stuff that's coming out in the Upbound space all the time.
Absolutely. All right. Have a good one, Marques.
All right. See you.
All righty. I think next up we have Harsh. You want to go ahead and bring him in, Victor?
Yeah, here we go. Here he is. Unmute yourself. I'm not the only one muted. That's cool.
Yeah. Hey, Victor. I think it's a flu passing around. Yeah. Hey, Dan.
Hey, good to see you. You want to start off with just a quick introduction of yourself?
Yep. So my name is Harsh, and I'm a developer at Civo. And I mainly work around things with Kubernetes. And it's not a day which goes without me having to say the word Kubernetes. So, yep. And we have users who asked us to have they asked us to asked us for features for Crossplane. So that's how we got into contributing to our Crossplane provider and building it.
Awesome. Well, I just dropped a link to y'all's provider. I definitely love seeing the first version landing in the marketplace. That was super cool. So I know y'all obviously are really big on Kubernetes, right? What kind of separates Civo's service from, something like GKE or one of the big clouds or something like that? And what's kind of the niche, if you will, or the area that y'all are really trying to fit into? And do you think Crossplane helps enable that specifically in any way?
So what differentiates Civo with other providers is that it's super quick. Like currently our custom build time is under 2 minutes, and we are constantly aiming to get it reduced. Like we have some internal demos where it's sub 60, sub 45 seconds. So it's a constant thing for us. And the main benefit out of it is it's really nice for someone like like all the Kubernetes ecosystem, all the projects, they have cool features to show, and for users to try it, it's really complicated. So one of the really nice things they can do is just hook up Civo on the backend and spin up clusters, which doesn't take long. So it's really nice for others in the cloud native ecosystem to just use our services. So that's one thing. And like basically people just use Crossplane because that's one way to do infrastructure as code, and it's a really nice way because you don't get that drift which you usually see with other solutions. Because once you have everything stored on your control plane, that's what you like. What you see is what you get. Philosophy, right?
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. Is there any, do y'all usually see folks that are using Civo in addition to other providers? Or are most of the folks that use Civo kind of just using Civo?
I think we have a lot of users trying to migrate. Like, I don't think we have particularly like users in both. I mean, there are services which we don't have currently, but we are building them, and they want to migrate when we have them. But majorly, I think the issue is with people migrating off of other providers to us. Like that's a major hurdle usually.
Awesome. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I love the idea of a cloud like Civo coming along where you all have this unique value proposition, right? You get Kubernetes clusters and you get them super, super quickly. And there's a bunch of different use cases as evidenced by folks migrating, right? That makes sense there. And I like the idea of folks having an internal platform that they could build on top of Crossplane, right? They could define, hey, this is a Harsh org Kubernetes cluster, right? And when someone comes along who offers, better capabilities there like Civo, the platform team could do the work to kind of switch that out, and developers would just see clusters coming up faster, and they wouldn't even have to know, right, that the implementation or the API wouldn't change at all for them.
Exactly.
So I love the idea of like really kind of being a meritocracy in some ways for the technology and being able to enable that with Crossplane. So I'm super excited to see the Civo provider there. I appreciate the work that y'all are doing in the community. Is there any kind of like call to action or anything like that you'd have for folks, or any areas you're looking for contribution?
Oh, sure. Like, so we have currently a bunch of things in progress. Like we recently launched Object Store, and we are shipping most of these things to Crossplane immediately. It's just that they are PR stuck in review, and we just need to review and actually get them across right now. So and there are a couple of other things, like we want more tests and everything for beta stability. So just drop us a message on a Slack or on GitHub issues, and we'll be happy to accept contributions. It'll be great to see someone else contributing.
Awesome. That sounds great. Well, once again, the GitHub repo is linked in the marketplace there. So if you follow that link in the chat, then you can get right to those things Civo is looking for help on. Harsh, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be here. Thank you for your contributions to the community. And we'll definitely have an eye on those new releases rolling out for the Civo provider.
Nice to be here.
Awesome. Thanks, Harsh.
Okay. One more missing. One more. Who's the last one? Who's the last mystery guest that you announced already and ruined the fun?
It is perhaps the biggest contributor in the Crossplane community, Christopher Haar.
Okay, here we go. Here's Christopher.
Hey guys.
All right. Hey, Christopher. We're not getting your video right now. I'm not sure if it went out on you.
Okay, on my side it's there. So
let me do the solution that works almost always. Turn it off and on again. No.
No.
It doesn't look like it. We can certainly go ahead and get the audio though, even if the video isn't going.
I guess we have a lot of videos from my pictures in a lot of community meetings. So
yeah, absolutely. folks can go watch that if they're just needing to see your face. Oh, there it is. There, it's back. Awesome. And you've got a nice Zoom background as well. So looks
Yes.
good. Awesome. Well, Christopher, I don't think you need any introduction for the impact that you have in the Crossplane community, but why don't you go ahead and give yourself a brief one, cover some of the points you think are relevant.
Yeah, cool. Hi, Christopher. I am part of Deutsche Kreditbank, in short called DKB in Germany. So it's one of the biggest banks from the customer perspective. I'm working here in the cloud automation team. And yeah, my team is helping all the internal teams and the DevOps chapters and everyone who wants to place services in the cloud. And we're trying to get things done for them. So that means we're building up, we call it standard operating platform in AWS. So we're taking care of all of the AWS services. And as you can know, we are a bank. We are in a highly regulated environment. We have a lot of things to do with security and governance things. And yes, with our platform, we can offer all our internal guys governance services very easily. With Crossplane, we had a hard way the last years. Means we started from EC2 Kubespray instances. We tried Terraform with more than 300 developers with all of the state file blocking problems. And yeah, with Crossplane, yeah, we are now in production with the Crossplane setup, and it's very, very quick to set up infrastructure in AWS, and we love it. And yes, and for the marketplace perspective, we love the documentation for the compositions because, yeah, we're using a lot of compositions, and also we generate a lot of composition automatically. We open sourced it a few weeks ago, so you can see how good you get now the documentation things done in the marketplace. So yeah.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you for that intro. Love to see the way you are using Crossplane. Just adding a little bit to the intro, Christopher has done a ton of work on provider AWS, making a huge impact there. And then what he was just mentioning, I believe, was this new X generation package that was pushed, which is actually a tool itself, right? But there's also a configuration package that we got into the marketplace right before this stream. I just dropped a link in the chat. Do you want to talk a little bit about what X generation does and how it's useful for y'all?
Okay, with X generation, we trying to generate compositions out of the provider CRDs. So we faced in the company that sometimes we need faster or as fast as we can compositions for our tenants, because we're running multi-tenancy in Kubernetes clusters. So we need namespace resources. And then it comes to the idea why we're not generating the compositions out of the CRDs, which means, I don't know, a simple RDS database, because it's consumable in the dev environment very easily. And then we can, as a team, add more and more governance stuff in the higher stages, so like in QA or production. And yeah, so the idea was born, and we started to figuring out how we can do this. We have small Go tooling now. We have a generate YAML file, and we can influence what the developers are doing in our platform. So if they grab a CRD from a provider, we can influence and override fields very easily. So for example, if we want to configure a KMS key for RDS instance, it's very easily, we can add the configuration, and then it's not possible for the developers anymore to override our settings. On the other hand, if folks knows in provider AWS, for example, there's a lot of options to add tags to your environment. So there are tags in arrays, tags in objects, tag sets of tags, whatever. So it depends on the APIs. And with the composition generation tool we added last week, an option that we can very easily patch from labels to all the things of tags without you need the knowledge of the underlying implementation in the providers, and it's very, very easily. And we need this for cost perspective, whatever. And all people in our company loves it now that we can tag now all the things without a lot of dirty patches in compositions, that we can patch all the things. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I know tags are really important for tracking cost usage and those sorts of things. So I'm sure that'll be really useful. Excited to see that project grow. Like I said, it is in the marketplace now. So go ahead and check that out. Well, Christopher, is there anything else you want to mention? Obviously, you're involved in a few different areas. Is there any packages you're working on that you could use contributions or would like for folks to get involved on?
Yes, currently we're working on configuration packages for central ingress and egress for AWS perspective. So with Transit Gateway, for example, and we want to open source it as well. And if someone in the community is out there and wants to try it before, ping me and we will open source it a little bit earlier with a release candidate, and you can try it. And we want to also to push it to the marketplace.
Awesome.
Go ahead. And one thing I saw now in the marketplace, and it's more like a question: is there also an idea to add the core Crossplane CRDs to the marketplace? Because from a community perspective, it's now very easy to share the things, but Crossplane core CRDs are missing, I guess.
Yeah, no, that is spot on. That has come up a number of times. There actually is a really quick way. This is getting into the details a little bit more, but I know you'll enjoy it. So we could actually just put together a Crossplane core provider that basically had no controller, right, and just had the CRDs in there. But I think we want to present it a little more elegantly so that like you could kind of access the core types from a quick way from everywhere. But that's definitely something that we want to put in there. So appreciate you bringing that up, and definitely a common feature request already.
Okay, cool. Thanks
Awesome.
for being here.
Yeah, thanks for joining, Christopher. Thank you for all the work that you do. Hugely impactful, as we mentioned. So we appreciate you taking time.
Thanks.
See ya. All right, Victor.
I feel bad for kicking Matthias out of the stream so early. I think that he's mad at me right now. So I'm going to try to remedy and bring him in to kind of close the session. What do you think? That makes sense?
That sounds like a great idea to me.
Okay, here we go. Here's Matthias. It's your moment to shine.
Always shining with you, Victor. So one thing that I was wondering, Victor, what about your configurations, right? I mean, there's these dot configurations all over the place.
Yeah, I have Kubernetes in 7 providers or something like that, and SQL, Postgres, MySQL in different providers, 5-6 types of applications, and probably a couple of more. I don't even know anymore which configurations I have. There are like 5 or 6, I think.
I love it.
Yeah, thank you.
All righty. Well, it has been a great day. Thanks to both of y'all for the overview from you, Matthias, and Victor, for just being yourself as always. Matthias, I would love to give you the opportunity to close us out here. If you have any call to action for the community, feel free to throw it out there and we'll wrap it up for the day.
Build platforms, right? Build platforms, build configurations, build providers. We've got awesome tooling. Reach out to the GitHub Upbound, reach out to the GitHub Crossplane, hit up us in Slack, join community meetings, join us, visit us at KubeCon. But if you're not at KubeCon, visit us in Slack, right? Reach out, start building. That's the call to action, I guess.
Absolutely. I love it. And quick shout out for Crossplane v1.10 that was released just about an hour before this meeting. Go ahead and check it out. Obviously the base for everything we build here. Victor, Matthias, thank y'all. And let's wrap it up for the day.